March 16th.
Sunday, March 16th, and we are live, me and Jerry, for the Sunday sell-off review to see what the heck is going on. Jerry, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling great and actually extremely optimistic.
Oh, I like that. I think people like that. Everybody wants to be optimistic. I will tell you there's some good news afoot, and there's a couple of things we're going to take a look at. We're going to put on our geopolitical hats because, you know, we are geopolitical experts when we talk about things, right? So we're going to put that hat on, take a look at just a little bit of good news. America negotiates ceasefire with Russia. Now, this is underway right now. President Trump came out and did say that, we're working with Ukraine. We're talking with Russia. Things are looking pretty good, which is what politicians would say. And then we'll see what happens. He says, looks like we're going to get an answer on Monday. So Monday could be a very big day for the people that have a lot of things riding on this. And I think Jerry said it perfectly when he came in, when it was just me and him. And he said, this is probably a great thing for people to stop dying. Not so much our portfolio, but the young kids that are being killed over there. And Jerry, you are 100% right. Let's hope this works out. What do you think?
I'll tell you, any day that we can put an end to people dying for a cause that they may or not believe in, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And so, not to mention the spending, right? So there's an economical element directly tied to all of us. We all have a vested interest in our tax dollars not going to fight a war somewhere. Yeah. And that we're going to talk about this in a little bit. This is from the All In podcast, and David Freeberg alludes to this and talks about Social Security and what should have been done and what was did in the past and how this kind of relates to Bitcoin. But before we get into that, which I think is pretty important, what's going on, Jerry? It looks like we've got Bitcoin down. We've got alts down. I think we've got the entire markets down. And we can see that it's been a kind of a seesaw. I got to tell you, if you're a trader, you got to love this, right? If you're a trader, tell me in the comments section. If you're doing leverage, that's on you. But you got to love this stuff. We're hitting 84, almost 85, drops to 82 at the blink of an eye, rockets up to 84, and now we're down to, let's refresh this. It might be something different. Same thing. So the question, and so check this out, Jerry. I have this website. I have no affiliation with it, but it's got great data. It's called Into the Block. If you guys just search for Into the Block, you'll find it. And they got some these data points, which I like. Two, I want to point out. When you're in and out of the money, see this little thing says in and out of the money? You want to see a lot of green, because the more green you have, the less sell pressure there can potentially be. And Bitcoin's doing pretty good. And it's one of the few that actually is quite high up there. And we've got, pretty high Ethereum's half and half. That's why you see a little more sell pressure. I wish they had Cardano and Dogecoin for a reason they don't. Tron, for some reason, is mostly in the money. Maybe we had a lot of people buying Tron before. Mm-hmm. Let's see what else we got. Toncoin is like seriously massive sell pressure because there's 92% are out. And that may be good. Avalanche, Shiba Inu. Let's see, Mantra looking pretty good. Bitcoin Cash is looking pretty good. Crazy. Roger
as far as
Ver.
Yeah, Roger Ver. That's wrap stuff. Athena, and so on and so forth. But what I want to point to people is just who is selling. And it comes down to not us. I think most of the people that interact with Jerry, interact with me, you know what time it is. And if you just take a look over the last couple months or so, there's these things called holders, cruisers, and traders. And what this takes into account is it takes a look at the wallets. And it says, okay, if you've held over a year, you are called a hodler, 1 year plus. If you're a cruiser, you've only held for 1 to 12 months in that specific account, and you have to take into account of your account that multiple people, multiple whales, multiple institutions, whatever it is, they're going to have multiple wallets. So things do get a little convoluted in this situation, but if we take a look at it across the board, it gives us an idea of where things and who's selling. And you got traders less than one month. So here it is. Let's go back to January. I want you to remember this number. Hodlers were at 38.8 million addresses. And over time, as of today, it went up to 39.5 million addresses. What does that mean? It means people who've held for a year or more have actually increased. So the people that found their way to not sell off or have gotten to that magical number of 12 months or a year, They're actually more of those addresses. What about the cruisers, the 1 to 12 months? Well, you start with 12.4 million addresses, and after 3 or 4 months, you got 12.08. So these guys are selling off. And the bigger one, the traders, which I got nothing against traders. I mean, traders actually make it easy for me and Jerry, because they start to trade and do leverage plays, and they get liquidated, and it makes it good for me and Jerry because we can pick some cheap stuff up. Less than a month, it was 2.82 million addresses. Now you got 2.56, meaning those guys are gone. So if you're looking for who the heck sold, that's pretty much your answer. Jerry, what do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what I think. So I listened to you, and I went back into the market last week between this show and last Sunday, and I set some limit orders. I set some limit orders on Coinbase for Bitcoin, and I haven't done that in a long time. Generally it's a Friday afternoon. I don't drink coffee on Friday, so I'm kind of like want to take a nap by 3. And so I go to Coinbase and I do my little dollar cost averaging, and I just record it and call it good and move on. But after our show last week, you inspired me to go put in some limit orders, and I did, and they all got met, and I saved myself compared to today's price almost 9%. Almost 9%. That's the difference between my dollar cost averaging just every Friday at 3:00 versus putting some limits in. And I'll tell you what it inspired me to do. I'm starting to look into getting a trading bot for myself, setting up a wallet and putting in my specific risk tolerance parameters. And it's no different than a limit order, right? Only it can be a little more dynamic because, and so I'm interested because I don't ever sell, right? I hoard. I'm a little hoarder, and I'm thinking maybe with all this volatility, and we're going to have another couple of years of volatility, that maybe I can eke out 5 or 6 or 7% profit on a monthly basis or bi-monthly basis or quarterly basis. And that would be enough money to help fund my charitable arm of my newly formed company.
Ooh, what do you got going on? What's your charity, Jerry?
My charity is Reward Jerry with Nice Things.
Okay. That sounds pretty good. That's a pretty good charity. All right. So I like where your head's at. At least we're all thinking of the same thing, right? We're thinking, okay, and I think most of us are in this same position. I'm taking a look at the comment section right now. We know that there's a lot of good news in the background. We know things are happening, and a lot of us have kind of seen this and like, that's not the top. That's not where we're at. I think there's so many good things, but we have to take into account the stuff that's in the background. Macro, wars, tariff. That's the big thing. Now, for us, and as far as like adoption, moving forward, all that stuff, it's just the markets just being scared. That's how I see it. And there's some other things that we'll go over. But Jerry, what else do you see that potentially is making us go down?
Well, okay. So I think it's super, super important to understand what is foundationally the foundation of markets, and it's money. It's always been money. It will always be money. And what do I mean by that? Specifically, the amount of it that can be moved around, right?
Yeah.
And so generally, if you go back and look at our history as a country, you can see pretty clearly that it was around getting off the gold standard that growth through debt, as opposed to growth through productivity, started to kind of, become more prevalent. And then you get into the 1990s and you can see it absolutely. Expansion through debt, not productivity, right? And so what the foundation of all our markets now is liquidity, is the amount of money available to do things with. And so when you look at that and you think, okay, there's a certain amount of money in the system right now, it's kind of static. Yeah. And if you look at when the M2 money supply goes up, and you can definitely see a correlation to asset prices going up, now it tells you what drives M2 money supply. It's always the issuance of debt, always. Well, until more debt is issued, I don't think we're going to see blast off anything. I think you'll see value accrue to utility, but I don't think you'll see parabolic movement until this one thing happens, and that is the rate to borrow money decreases. It's cheaper. When it's cheaper to borrow money today than it was yesterday, and you start to see an expansion on the money supply, you will start to see a real expansion of asset prices.
Yeah, it has to do with, we talk about this, but money supply, and also if there's quantitative tightening, what is the Fed putting on the books? What are they offloading the books? And of course, the M2 money supply for the States versus M2 money supply versus the globe for the world. And of course, let's just be honest. And I want to get into the big thing. America is really good at a couple things. And one of those is printing money. And we're great at it. And we've been doing it for quite some time. And we only just, let me reset this. The only time we really came, if anything, we did very barely in 93. But if we just take a look at it, the only time we've done it since the 1960s, let that sink in, of reducing the monetary amount was March 2022. And we didn't even go that deep. It was crackheads getting off crack. Hey, we can't do this. Let's do it again. And then off we go. But this would lead me to what I was alluding to with Jerry. And I wanted to talk about this one because it kind of goes to the heart of what Jerry talking about as far as liquidity. And this is David Freeberg at the All In podcast. And he made this point, and I was blown away by what he talked about as far as entitlements meaning Social Security, not Medicare, just Social Security, and where America screwed up and how they can reverse everything. And I took a look at it, and it wasn't a screw up. It was actually a pretty decent plan. But then how Bitcoin actually fit into this. So I want everybody to take a listen. This is about 2 minutes or so. Let me, I need to put this on full audio. Take a listen. This is 2 minutes. Tell me if this doesn't make a lot of sense.
The U.S. Social Security program is meant to be kind of the retirement program for folks that don't have access to private retirement accounts. This program was set up in the 1930s after the Great Depression. There's a trust fund, the OA SDI, which is the fund that they invest the capital. So every year we all put money in with our Social Security taxes out of our paychecks, goes in there. It gets invested in one thing, U.S. Treasuries, which have averaged about 4.8% return since the beginning of the program per year. Meanwhile, the S&P has been averaging 11%. So here's the math. If in 1971, which was the year that we went off the gold standard in the United States, if we invested the Social Security Trust Fund in the S&P, the balance of the Social Security Trust Fund today would be $15 trillion. That would be roughly 1/3 of the value of the total S&P 500, which would be jointly owned by all Americans. Now, here's what's up. The middle class people who had access to private retirement accounts benefited by buying the S&P 500, and the wealthy were able to access it. So all of the equity value that accrued from American enterprise and the prosperity of the American system accrued to the people that had access to the private accounts. Meanwhile, the people that only had access to the public accounts got stuck owning treasuries. Today, the Social Security Trust Fund has $2.7 trillion balance, and based on the outflows and inflows, it's going to go bankrupt in 2032. So I did the math. If you assume that the S&P 500 continues to grow at 10.5% a year, on average, we could put about $500 billion in the trust fund today, and it will not go bankrupt again. And it will continue to grow every year. And then all Americans have participation in American enterprise. And importantly, this becomes the world's largest sovereign wealth fund ever. You don't need a separate sovereign wealth fund. We already have one. We've totally mismanaged it. And I went back to try and understand why this is the case. Why have we only ever bought treasuries? Early on, the US needed someone to loan money. So they basically forced the citizens to loan the government money in the form of treasuries. But today, the Social Security Trust Fund owns less than 10%, about 8% of the total treasury bonds outstanding. So why are we forcing all the American citizens to participate?
Propping it up for no reason.
Through the Social Security system, we've created the deep inequity we see in this country. If instead we had allowed the Social Security system to invest in the S&P 500, to buy American enterprises, to fund American businesses, then every American would be wealthy, and that middle class that uniquely participated by basically arbitraging the market, where they forced the treasury bond yields on the poor, and they got to take access to the equity yields, would have not happened.
That's crazy. All right. Jerry. And everybody else, put your comments in there. What do you think?
I'm telling you, knowledge is power. Now, one of the beautiful things that we have going for us today is that social media is a valid place where ideas get communicated and heard and put into action. I'm curious how long it's going to take for the Trump administration, with guys around him like Elon, etc., to go, you know what? That's sound. That's smart. Let's do something. Let's do it and then take credit for it. Look at me. Under my leadership, I saved Social Security. I mean, who do you think Trump wouldn't want to do that? I don't care. The reason, personally, is somebody who's going to, who I paid my whole life to get into that thing. I'd like to get my Social Security.
Yeah, I'm not. I would. Yeah.
You're not, I mean, that's. Well, I paid into it my whole life. I'd like to get it.
I'm not getting it. We're not getting it, Jerry. Let's just call it. I just thought it was interesting. And then I thought to myself, maybe that's one of the reasons for the push. Because, I mean, if you know about the All In podcast, David Sachs is a part of that. And he's on a recurring basis. And I think him and the guy started it. And maybe it was one of those things where they did a think tank and said, hey, maybe we should do something with that. Freeberg came out with a good idea. Maybe it was put into Trump's here. This is all hearsay. But, I mean, if you just add a little bit of Bitcoin to that mix and really diversify, just like what other retirement accounts have done across the states and, well, globally, it hasn't really taken off as much as I thought it should. But if you just balance it with that and have it for a long term, I mean, why wouldn't you in retirement accounts? It seems like to me, like you've never lost money on Bitcoin over a 4-year time frame. And you've never also lost money as long as you don't sell Bitcoin. So if you just take that over 4 years, retirement account is a perfect place for that. Why wouldn't we do this? That was just my question.
You know what I think will be interesting? So there's the Social Security Fund is one talking point, but federal and state governments have more than that program, right? We have healthcare programs. We have all kinds of programs that are facing literal insolvency issues. True. And I think the sound practice of how to utilize capital, like we're utilizing it, right? And we're seeing the gains from it. I came to crypto in the very, very end of 2017, and all I had was $23,000 in my bank account and no job.
Oh, no job. Okay. I was going to say 28,000 is pretty good, Jerry. I mean, quite honestly.
No income. So now look at me. I did one simple thing. I turned currency into assets that grow. And that's the magic. That's all any of us need to do. So why couldn't a Medicare program do the same thing? Why couldn't Social Security do the same thing? I think that's all that particular conversation was highlighting. It was just mismanagement of money. And now we have better ways to manage money.
Way better ways. Well, we've also got way better things than banks as well. All right, I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. But I did want to get over to like the indicators, just to go over some things about as far as like, this is a good time to sell. Because we want to do this every Sunday. And the reason why we want to do it is because at some point, everybody's going to want to sell. Probably, maybe some people want to sell it now. I'm not a big fan of selling into weakness, but sure. So what I look at is just these specific indicators. And there's a link in the description for when I'm going to sell, 50 to 80% of my crypto. And what I'm looking for here is one, to start with, market value. And this one here, of course, we're using Ben's website, stealing all his information as much as possible. The market value to realized value. And you can see let's be honest, it did a pretty darn good job in 2013 for the tops, 2017. Didn't do a great job in 2021, but again, that's why I use multiple indicators. But anything above 6 is a pretty good, so far, is not too shabby. And then, of course, right now we are at a whopping 1.77. So I'm going to give that a big fat thumbs down. I'm not a big fan of selling at this point. I'm actually looking to where it goes below 0, because that's the time to accumulate. Now, you don't get this too often. You got it in 2022, November. You got it in, what is this, March probably? Oh, no, December 2018. That's also a great time. You also got it 2015 when Bitcoin market cap was 2.4 and 1. I don't even know what the price was back then. So that's a big no. The net unrealized profit losses. Again, we were taking a look at who's in profit, who's not. Unrealized profits and loss. It's actually not too far off, but again, pretty good time when we were back here in 2017, back in 2021, around April or May. And then for this one, 0.47, can't even get 0.5. I think the better time would have been anything above 0.6. And of course, the big times are below zero. Again, November. What the heck is this? Jerry, what was going on March 2020?
A little thing called COVID.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And let's see, December 2018. So yeah, those are pretty good times. But as far as like selling, not so much. Pi cycle top. This is when the 350-day moving average goes over the 111-day moving average. And we can see that doesn't happen yet. So that's a big fat no. And then historical risk levels. As far as Bitcoin goes, I mean, I like this one a lot. So I talk about it. And we can see that in March 2021, it topped out. It didn't hit the top of April, but not too bad. 17 and 13s. But this one did a spike back in March 2024 when the Bitcoin price was 72,000. That actually wouldn't have been a bad time to buy or to sell off, because then it went down to 54,000 just, gosh.
I mean, yeah, precipitously. I remember that.
Yeah. And I didn't think it was going to go down because I'm like, what are we talking about? We're right before the halving. You can't sell. And of course, wasn't correct. And then of course we had a nice little pump here on 18th December, again above 0.6. Now we're in the dumpers at 0.486 for risk levels, which is why Jerry had that nice fill order and got it filled. Yeah.
3 of them.
And then this one, we've been talking about this, and this was actually shown to me by Smart Money Tracking, the Manson stablecoin indicator. And what this is it takes a look at what's quote unquote smart money. It follows their wallets. And when you have a bunch of stablecoins going into the wallets, it means they have sold their Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever cryptos, and they put it into stablecoins because that's what they do. And you can see they sold off in, June 2022. They actually sold off in May. Not the greatest of times. But then over here, actually, smart money isn't so great sometimes. Let's see what else. We've increased over here, December 26, 2022. And then, of course, they started to accumulate all the way from, well, actually, that's a pretty good time. From December 30th, 2022, which was a good time, they were accumulating all the way until roughly June 2024. And they started to sell off, a little bit of a dip. And then they were selling. But just recently, as of last week, they started to reaccumulate a little bit. So take that with a grain of salt. There's a little bit of smart money that are buying back into the market. But this is a very tenacious looking chart. I don't know how fully accurate it is. And that's it for that piece. And then lastly, I want to tell everybody before we get into the Q&A. Actually, before I go into this next part, Jerry, what do you think about all these indicators? What can tell us some additions?
There's an okay. So okay, if you look historically, value is always migrated to the most solid store, right? The solid assets. Beanie Baby profits always work their way into the real estate market. 80% of them, the smart money anyway. They make money on something that was speculative and they go to something that's tried and true. Well, as Bitcoin develops its apex asset status, we will start seeing things convert over to them that don't have anything to do with the M2 money supply, et cetera, et cetera. And it's going to be interesting to see how that gets tracked. Like how much real estate is being sold off and acquires Bitcoin? How many stocks that aren't the Magnificent Seven are getting sold off and becoming Bitcoin? I'll tell you, that's what I did. I only have 4 or 5 stocks in my portfolio now. All the other ones, I kind of did a cost breakdown analysis, and I thought to myself, these might go up 10, 12% a year, but Bitcoin's going up 40 or 50, 60% a year. It's the same dollar. Do I want to make 50 cents on that dollar or 15 cents on that dollar? It's my dollar. What do I want to do with it? So I'm starting, I'm doing that. And if I'm doing that and I'm not very bright, imagine what the smart people are doing.
I think sometimes people are just too smart for their own good sometimes.
That could be.
So yeah, you gotta dare to be dumb. And then when you do that, you can just sit back and go, I'm just going to buy this thing called Bitcoin and maybe some little bit of alts and let the rest of this stuff just go to the wayside. Anyhow, so that's what we have for today. Oh, and lastly, I kept getting asked for this, so we did a follow-up on Minutes Network. Now, Minutes Network, if you're not familiar, I did a deep dive on my second channel, TANGEM. This channel that you're on right now, this one is mostly for the tried and true, very safe-ish type of things, right? Down the line, straight and narrow. TANGEM, we've got some other very risky, some very risky. And we talked about Minutes Network, and I did an update because we did one roughly a year ago. If you're not familiar, Minutes Network is one of those projects that actually does something. This is how it works. Did you know that if you're trying to make a call with somebody, it's not just Verizon to Verizon. There's these people in the middle. And then when there's somebody in the middle, they're making a lot of money. And those people in the money, they are called termination. You can give them terminators. But they're the ones that actually are responsible for connecting you to whoever you're calling, or for a business to contact you, or for tech support to call you when you can't figure out what's going on with your refrigerator, or whatever else it is. So these guys take a big chunk of profit. And what Minutes Network figured out is, because they've been in the industry for decades, is like, we're going to bypass these guys. We're going to talk to all these different apps that you already have on your phone. We're going to have them insert a line of code, and we're going to reduce the expense by 80%. It's going to go back to the savings to the user, so they don't have to actually pay for this service. And the second thing is to the apps that are actually handling this, and they get paid. So we also have a nice partnership with World Mobile. I don't know if you ever heard of those guys. And then also with SEW, which has 1.2 billion app users right now. And we did a nice little update with Josh and the crew. And it looks like, well, here, just watch this. This is 30 seconds. This is the first 30 seconds of the video. You can watch the rest of it on the TANGEM channel. Links in the description.
We're very excited for what's ahead, Rob. We already have secured 15% or more of the world's population on our network. Just to bear in mind, China Mobile have 900 million plus users today, maybe 1.1 billion users today. The application that we are onboarding right now has up to 1.2 billion users or more. That obviously puts us in line with the largest telecommunications carrier in the world. The Minutes Network token TG is around the corner.
Could we say potentially 2025? That's not really a time frame, but could we say like?
Oh, no. We can, from what I'm hearing from the token team, we can expect it to be within Q1 25, absolutely. And it could even be much quicker.
Josh, that's pretty ballsy because it is March 14th. So we were coming up on the deadline of that Q1.
I will use the platform now to say that by next week, the community and everyone who follows Minutes Network will be introduced with our new monetization brand, Jingle.
Mm-hmm. All right, everybody. Okay, so I don't know what Jingle is, but the rest of that was pretty good. So we talked about token generation event. We talked about the partnerships. People have been talking because it's been a year, and it was high time we talked to those guys. So check that out over on TANGEM. Links in the description to go from there. But that is it for this piece. Jerry, anything to add before we get into Q&A?
I would like to be running that, providing the compute for that from one of my hyper appliance home portal neurons.
I know a guy. I know a guy you can talk to. All right.
I would love to do that.
Okay. So that is it, everybody, for the news piece, the regular piece. If you want to stick around, we'll do a little Q&A. Ask Jerry any question that you can throw at him. He's the smart one, and we can go from there. But if you got to take off, enjoy the Sunday. But right now, let's get into a little Q&A. And thank you, Mullet. Minutes Network update on that link. Link also in the description. Rebecca, it's Rob and Jerry. Hello. And Aristotle or Plato said this is the infomercial part of the stream. Somewhat. But before anybody asked me, nobody paid me. I just like the project. Did I invest into it? Of course I did. Why wouldn't I talk about it unless I invested? So that, of course, is the truth. And where is it? Plato did a good question. China's market is small scale. When Elon gets to Mars, I'm looking at a load of Martian investors. It'll be out of this world investment, not financial advice. Well, that's something. Castaneda says, where is the sell-off? I don't know. Let's take a look at the charts today. And weren't we just at 83? Well, there you go. So, my man, we were at 84,000 today, and then we dropped down to 82, and then we did a little sideways action, jumped all the way up to 80, almost 85, and now we're back down to 83,000 yet again. So, about 7 days, not bad. A month, not too good. 3 months, really not too good. Damn it. We were at 106,000 at one point, Jerry. December 17th. Shoot. Yeah. So, yes, there's your sell-off. And we can take a look. I'm sure it's not just Bitcoin. Who's the biggest loser this 24-hour period?
Mantle.
No, Mantle's a winner.
Oh, Pepe?
Mantle's up 8.6. Biggest loser. Wow, Pepe dropped.
Good.
Huh?
Good.
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 Jerry, I own some Pepe. No, but
I don't.
Right,
I avoided the whole meme thing.
You're smart. I got a friend, Bobby. He could not resist. He got way in. Hyperliquid's down 8%. Oof, 7% for Trump. But that's dude. That's supposed to. Caspa down 8.4, 8%. BitTensor. Geez, Cardano.
BitTensor, that's an interesting project. BitTensor.
Tau.
Yeah, really. They have I'm in the AI world and with Hypercycle, and BitTensor has this registry of various algorithms.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the theses is that Hypercycle is banking on, and it's a shared thesis. I mean, we're not the only ones to have it. But we're banking on the fact that peer-to-peer multi-agent networks will far outnumber any siloed AI elements.
What does that mean, Jerry? Siloed.
Silo. Okay, so OpenAI is a company, and they control their AI. They are one entity, and that is siloed. AWS controls everything that comes in and out of it, pending its contracts, right? So that's siloed. Peer-to-peer is not regulated. You can't regulate peer-to-peer. Like you could have a compute facility in Puerto Rico, and I could be contracting with you in Costa Rica, and there is no sovereign nation that can tell me or you that we can't do that unless it's the one that we're in the jurisdiction of. And then we can move if we want to, right? It's unchallengeable. Whereas if you have a corporation that's siloed, they can cut off your service if they deem it fit to do that.
Oh, I see.
And that's one of the reasons why decentralization is such a big deal, but people don't understand this one simple fact. Most decentralized systems are only decentralized in who owns the hardware, not where the compute is powering the hardware. I mean, not powering the software.
Yeah. Excellent. Good breakdown. All right. Yeah, I know a guy can help with that. How about this one? What nice things would Jerry like?
Ooh, I would like to finish the swimming pond at the waterfall.
God, that sounds like such a rich person would say.
I need a pond. I need to find a good pond liner because I have these gabiones, which are you put the rocks in the meter cage, like a meter squared metal cage. Yeah. You stack the rocks perfectly. Mm-hmm. Well, I have those gabiones, but water just goes through the rocks, right? I want to have a 6-foot swimming hole. So now I need a pond liner. Yeah, gold-plated problems, no question about it.
This is first world problems. All right.
problems. I'm sorry, folks. If there's anybody out there struggling, struggle is real. Don't get me wrong. I ate top ramen and had shitty shoes while I was trying to build something for many years. Rob will tell you, I broadcasted from a hole in the wall with 2.5-year-old shoes and eating top ramen so that I could try to make something. I do understand the struggle. So if you're struggling, know that if you keep doing what Rob suggests, you will eventually work your way out of it, because it's sound financial advice, even though we don't give financial advice. Yeah,
the big thing is don't invest more than you can lose, and take profits along the way, because everyone broke taking profits. Yeah.
There you
go. And you know, life just sucks. You know, we grow up, we get dealt a hand. It's how we play that hand, right? Like when I grew up as a kid, I mean, we were homeless for a little bit of time. I got to live in the car. I thought it was a fun time. I was a young kid. I'm like, I got to spend time with my mom. This is awesome. But that's just pretty much how it goes. You know, you just have some parts just suck and some parts get better. Estonian Reefer, that's a good one. Why are you all here? Just sell. Rob is bearish, as always. It's all over. Panic, sell. Well, I'm not really bearish per se. I just don't have a lot of confidence in the short-term plan of the market and where things are going. Long-term, of course, is a little different story. But I mean, just the short-term, I think we have problems. Jerry, am I off? Should I be more bullish?
There's somebody asking about alts. It's Jacob Kuda. He says, "What's your favorite alts?" I don't know if you guys remember. Rob, remember when you had me and CryptoCito on your show?
Yeah.
We were talking about projects in the Cosmos ecosystem. I have been a big fan of tokens that represent projects that actually do something that I would use. So, for instance, a VPN, I use those. Provide compute. I run software. I need a Kosh to hook me up with a compute provider. Pretty soon, Hyper Appliance and Hypercycle will fill that need. But the point is, my favorite alts are alts like World Mobile Token that are doing a real world thing right now and have a token associated to them that I can participate in their growth.
Makes sense. Participate in the growth. I can see that.
Wealth creation, man. That's how it's done.
That's how it's done. What about this one? Let's see. Oh, yeah. This was an interesting story that's developing. I'm not going to lie. I kind of get excited to see the multi-million-dollar shorter get liquidated earlier when Bitcoin hit 85K. So if everybody's not aware of this, there's some guy, they call him Mr. Short. And you can see this is his profile. And he did
the total his wallet. They track his wallet, all his activity. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't, you know, if I think it's like if Bitcoin does go to a certain, I think 85,000, he does get liquidated. But I mean, this is the real deal. He's got the total value is 23 million. What's that?
He's got 23 million in this thing.
Yeah, but he put in, as I understand it, he's got unrealized profits right now of 6.7 million. So, you know, so he's put in roughly what, 17 million, somewhere around there?
Dude, that's not a bad return on investment.
16. No, it's not. But Jerry, look at this leverage play. I think it was at 44x at one point. And I know that he had not just Bitcoin open, but he had Bitcoin and he had Ethereum shorted. And it looked like he was supposed to be taking profits for the short at 69K. And I don't think that's going to happen. So if this guy's, the only way you do stuff like this is you're either stupid rich or you got major insider information. And it doesn't look like that's panning out so far.
Maybe it's like a super PAC or something. It's a coalition of people.
Yeah, MT says it right. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you're right. That could be true. Maybe it's a coalition of people. They pooled their money and they put this all in. That's crazy. I don't know. I can't do that. I can't do it.
But can you imagine getting yourself, like I talked about a bot earlier. I have a friend building a bot. Well, actually, he's already built it. I want him to build one for me where I can put my special specifications into it and just allow it to go trade under the way that I would trade if I was willing to trade. Like if I was willing to put the time and effort into trading, I would do it this way. Well, why not have the bot go out and do that? I want to try that. Aether Compute. I love those guys, and they're a friend of Digital Asset News.
They are.
They're a friend.
I know a guy. I know a guy who knows a guy. I just think at some point it's all going to come to a head, and all this AI stuff is going to, it's crazy. You know, I got to tell you, so like speaking of AI, so we go on Thursday, we go to the local dog shelter, Amigos de los Animales, and we walk the dogs on the beach. And it's good. We get the dogs get out, and then we go have drinks, which is the best part, the second best part. So we're sitting there, and they're like, and they're talking about how they want to try to raise funds for it. And everybody, if you're looking for like a charity, there's two. There's one is Pro Techos. They build roofs here in Puerto Rico, and then one's Amigos for the animal shelter. Links in the description. But they said, you know, we have a problem with our website. We need someone to build a new one because they got one from like way long time ago. And then they want to do something with QR codes so people can support the dogs. I said, just tell ChatGPT to do it. And they go, what do you mean? And I go, yeah, watch this. So I pulled out ChatGPT. I pay for premium, Jerry, I'm baller, $20 a month. And I said, hey, make me a website for something that would be interesting and entertaining for a dog shelter. And it said, okay, any other parameters? Nope, just do that. And it did it. And it made the website, and I showed Audrey. She's like, I didn't know I could do that. I'm like, yeah, I can do everything. And I go, watch this. I go, now give me the HTML code. And it ripped out the code. And it's like, okay, now if you want to do that, just put that in there. Now to change it is a little bit different, but I thought it was pretty cool. Like it just made a website just like that. It gave them all the pictures, all the text, all the copy, everything.
So is that, if I summarized what you said, are you thinking that it's very possible that AI might be around in 5 years? That it's not Beanie Babies?
Did you? Okay, well, I'll answer that with a statement, which is this: there was a video of Will Smith eating like chow mein or something like that. It was like the first AI video, I was blown away 2 years ago, and it was like him. He looked like an alien, but kind of like Will Smith. And I was like, wow, can you imagine this in like 10 years? I just saw a video of yesterday it was Will Smith skydiving. And I'm like, oh, good for Will Smith. He's skydiving. But then as he gets down, like he turns into like an elephant or something. I'm like, holy smokes, that was AI. And it looked real. And I think AI is going to replace essentially a lot of things. And the ones who realize it and adapt it, those are the ones that will be the winners, and the ones that don't be the losers.
It's no different than the people who were in any kind of business in an analog world prior to the internet and wireless cellular communication, adopting strategies, right? Those that grew with the technology, with the help of the technologies, and those that didn't had a much harder time. And I'm getting older, and I like the ease. I like the use, right? I think it's only going to enhance a lot of things. There will be things that get displaced, but that's okay because the internet displaced maps, right? Who has a paper map in their glove box anymore? I don't. And so all those people that made maps are out of business. And I'm sorry, but I bet they re-educated. I bet they went and found something else to do.
Dude,
maybe not. Maybe they all died a horrible death.
No. Look, I used to use maps. I used to stop and actually ask people, do you know where this is? Can you help a brother out and help me find blah, blah, blah? And they're like, oh, yeah, you just go down here, do this and this. And I'm like, okay, thanks. Then you get lost and you do it again. And you're like, man, this is not easy. But yeah, I remember those days. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see.
God, all those people that used to make cassette tapes, they're all out of work. What do you think they're doing?
What are they doing?
Where are you, Waldo?
June 11th, June 12th, 6 cents. Yeah, it sounds about right. So let's see. What else we got? That's the Glock box. I keep my maps with my buggy whip.
Oh, there you go, mullet. Right on.
Oh, yeah. MapQuest was the best. Cassette tapes were also bringing me down. Oh man, good times.
I remember 8-tracks. I remember my first 8-track machine I put in the car. They called them, tape player.
The tell them tape players, yeah.
I remember my tape player. It was great.
It was great. Base Bailey says Grok is out to steal everybody's thunder. Grok works pretty well as well. I use Perplexity, Grok, and ChatGPT. I'm sure there's other ones out there, but man,
now, hey, let me ask you something, Rob. If I gave you an app that gave you access to exactly the same ChatGPT that you're paying for, the exact Grok that you're paying for, and the exact Perplexity that you were paying for, but I wrapped it into one app, would that be more beneficial for you, or do you like having them independent of each other?
No, but I think it would be important to like differentiate between like what you're trying to do in those apps, and like, you know, because one, I'd like you to be more, well, you just give them prompts. If you give them the right prompts, I want you to be creative in this and do this. I want you to be more business oriented, do this. I want you to be a movie director and make this type of movie. If you can do something like that, then yeah, that'd be great.
For those people that have the same kind of answer as Rob, look into Hypercycle.
Look into Hypercycle.
Look into Hypercycle, because that's exactly what we're building. I mean, it's a lot more complex than that, but
it started hacking. What is this?
I started hacking people and made $1 million. Botnet Army. Botnet Army.
Botnet
there you go,
Army.
Ralph. There you go.
Wow. Ralph, that's not something to brag about.
You get a shyster out himself on a live stream.
Yeah. I told my AI it is the smartest, fastest. Ralph, I hope that's just a joke, because I despise all hackers and all the people and all the ones that are behind it that steal people's money. So if you're going to stick around, either lie to me, because if you are a hacker, I will ban you from this all the videos from now on. All right, let's see. BRICS and the prospect of more tariffs are concerned. Sorry, Rob, I can't stop her. I'm just going to assume you're joking. So what do you mean you can't stop her? So you created an AI bot and then you just let it go and it hacks. And what does it do? Does it steal the money? And then where does that money go? Who has access to that money? Or does it just disrupt their service or something? That's cute. That's what I'm curious on. He steals the money to then short Bitcoin for us.
Shorts Bitcoin at 40x leverage.
That's good. Ralph, that's goofy.
Yeah, Ralph is messing with this, I think.
Jerry, that also exists. It's called Poe.
Poe.
Yeah. And then Joe says, did you already talk about who's selling? That's why I'm here. The people that are selling are the ones that have held for less than a month. The ones that, you know, we probably told our friends and family, you guys should get into Bitcoin because, you know, Donald Trump's on it and nation states are on there. There's ETFs. And then, of course, it falls in the toilet and like, oops, sorry. I forgot to tell you this one important fact, which is it's super volatile and you got to hold it for at least 4 years. Sorry, I forgot to tell you that. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Well, Jerry, any last words of wisdom before we get out of here for this upcoming brutal week?
Thank everybody for being on the journey, right? I mean, it's all one big grand experiment. Free markets have never had a finite asset like Bitcoin ever. There's no commodity in the history of man like this. So how this plays out, how the adoption curve gets rolled out, who sells when, and all these type of things, it's all one big grand experiment. And all we have to try to understand is the directionality of the progress. Get yourself into the path of progress, folks, and you'll be just fine.
There you go. That's a really good one. Get yourself into the path of progress. Throw yourself in the path of progress and you'll be just fine.
Just throw yourself in there.
Sounds good to me. All right, everybody. I'm going to steal that, Jerry. All right, everybody. So that concludes the Sunday show. Again, enjoy the rest of your day. Get out there and touch sand, grass, snow, dirt, whatever else it is. Mark is not going anywhere. All right. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
Pura vida.
Adios.